Morning light spills across the golden spires of a pagoda, turning them into flames against the pale blue sky. The first bells ring softly, their echoes rolling across quiet streets lined with sleeping shop fronts. Barefoot monks in deep orange robes walk in single file, each carrying a round alms bowl. Shopkeepers bow as they pass, placing handfuls of rice or pieces of fruit into the bowls with careful, practiced hands. The air smells of incense from a nearby temple, mixed with the sweetness of fresh tea brewing in small roadside shops. A few stray dogs lie lazily in the shade of wooden doorways. Buses rattle past, their metal frames worn smooth by years of use. Inside, men in long yi and women in colorful skirts sway with the motion, heading toward factories, markets, and schools scattered across the city. At the tea shops, older men sit on low stools, sipping steaming glasses of sweet tea. They talk in low voices, their words mixing with the hiss of boiling kettles and the clink of glass cups. From a tourist's view, it is a perfect morning, calm, colorful, and deeply traditional. Many take photos, convinced they are seeing the true soul of the country in these early hours. But locals know another side to the morning. Alongside the beauty lies a set of quiet questions. Will there be enough work today? Will prices rise again before the weekend? Will the power stay on tonight? For some, the temple bells represent harmony and stability, proof that life here holds on to peace no matter the challenges. They feel comfort in the rhythm that has lasted for generations. For others, this harmony is only on the surface, a polite cover hiding the weight of daily struggles. They see the beauty, but also the uncertainty that shapes every choice they make. Vendors begin arranging their stalls, laying out vegetables, herbs, and dried fish. The smell of frying dough drifts into the street, drawing children on their way to school to spend a few spare coins. A young boy in a faded uniform waits for his bus while eating a small snack. He smiles at the vendor, but his eyes glance toward the road, hoping the bus won't be late. A man sells newspapers from a wooden stand. The headlines are bold, but the details are read carefully, quietly. Some stories are discussed freely. Others are folded away with no comment at all. The monks finish their rounds, their bowls now heavy with offerings. They return to the monastery, their orange robes bright against the green of the trees that shade the narrow lane. A group of tourists stands nearby, pointing cameras at the scene. They whisper to each other about how peaceful it feels, comparing it to busy cities they have left behind. A woman passing by overhears them. She smiles politely, but in her mind she wonders if they know about the shortages in the market, the blackouts, the long lines for simple goods. This is where opinions divide. Some would tell the tourists, yes, this is harmony, this is our true life. Others would say, it's not the full story. There's much you don't see. Which side do you agree with? Do you believe what you see in the streets tells the whole truth? Or do you think reality is often hidden behind politeness and tradition? Near the pagoda, a man sells flowers for temple offerings. He arranges them carefully, yellow and white blooms tied with thin green stems. The scent carries in the warm air as people pass. The temple steps grow busy with visitors. Some carry baskets of food for the monks. Others bring candles to light inside the cool, shadowed halls. Murmured prayers mix with the soft shuffle of bare feet on stone. The sun rises higher, spilling light over rooftops and across the small lake beside the temple. Its surface shimmers, disturbed only by a few ducks gliding toward the reeds at the far edge. Across the lake, A cluster of houses begins to stir. Laundry flutters on lines. A radio plays a slow song, and someone sweeps dust from their doorstep into the narrow street. By now the city has awakened. The quiet calm of early morning blends into the hum of daily life. Engines, voices, bicycle bells, the sharp ring of a hammer from a nearby workshop. Yet, even in this growing noise, the golden spires of the pagoda still catch the sun, gleaming above everything. They stand as they have for centuries, watching the city change below them. For some, that unchanging glow is proof of balance, a sign that no matter what happens, life here remains steady. Others see it as a symbol of time, standing still while the world moves on. If you stood here, watching this same morning unfold, would you call it harmony? Or would you see hidden struggles behind the beauty? Share your thoughts. Someone else might see it completely differently. The market wakes before the sun rises, its narrow lanes filling with the sound of carts rattling over uneven stones. Vendors spread cloth on the ground, arranging their goods with quick, practiced hands. The air is thick with smells. Fried samosas, sizzling in bubbling oil, fresh coriander tied in bundles, and ripe bananas giving off a sweet, heavy scent that clings to the humid morning breeze. Women in long skirts stack green limes into neat pyramids, adjusting each one carefully so the display looks perfect. Their fingers move with the speed of habit, eyes scanning for early customers. Children weave between stalls, balancing baskets of vegetables against their hips. They call out greetings to neighbors, laughing when a vendor tosses them a small snack to keep them moving. From the riverbank, fishermen carry their catch on wide bamboo trays. The fish glisten in the sunlight, still dripping water, scales flashing silver and blue as they shift with every step. Tourists wander through with cameras hanging from their necks. They stop often to take pictures. Bright chilies piled high, women grinding spices, and the flash of a smile from behind a table of fresh herbs. For them, the market is full of life and charm, a scene to remember and share online. But for sellers, each day is an unpredictable race between profit and loss. Some vendors say the market is the heart of the community, a place where people meet, talk, and share. They believe it keeps the neighborhood alive and connected. Do you agree with them? Others argue it's only survival in disguise. Behind every smile is the pressure to sell enough to cover rent, food, and school fees before prices change again. Which side would you choose? A woman selling mangoes weighs each fruit on a small metal scale, adjusting the weight with careful precision. She knows even a small mistake could mean losing a customer to another stall. Next to her, an elderly man sells hand-woven baskets. His hands are rough from years of weaving, each basket a day's work. Yet buyers still ask for a lower price. Some customers bargain lightly, smiling as they do, seeing it as tradition. Others push harder, knowing the seller may not be able to refuse, even if it means earning less than they hoped. A group of young men unload sacks of rice from a truck, sweat darkening their shirts. The driver leans against the cab, calculating how much to raise the price before unloading the last sack. Everywhere there is motion. Hands counting coins, knives chopping vegetables, scoops plunging into sacks of lentils. The sounds blend into a constant rhythm that beats through the market all day. In the corner, a tea stall serves steaming glasses of milk tea. People gather there to rest their feet, talk about the morning's prices, and share news from beyond the city. Sometimes the talk turns to the cost of goods. One man complains that onions have doubled in price since last month. Another shrugs, saying that's how it's always been. Do you agree? A young girl sells bundles of morning glory, her bare feet dusty from walking the fields at dawn. She smiles shyly as customers approach, hoping they'll buy before the leaves start to wilt. The midday sun heats the tin roofs, making the air heavy. Vendors fan themselves with cardboard, but they stay at their stalls, waiting for the slow trickle of afternoon customers. Some say this patience is a sign of resilience, proof that people here know how to wait and work for every coin. Others see it as a sign of limited choices. Tourists stop for lunch at small food stalls, eating noodles and broth while sitting on low plastic stools. They talk about how colorful and exciting the market is compared to their supermarkets back home. A woman passing by overhears them. She wonders if they understand how many people in this market work 12 hours just to earn enough for tomorrow's meals. Would you tell them? The river carries away the smell of fish as the last boats leave for the day. Vendors begin packing unsold goods, some with relief, others with disappointment. In the quiet that follows, the market's colors fade into shadow. For some, it was a good day. For others, the numbers will not add up no matter how they try. If you walked through these stalls, smelling the spices and hearing the voices, would you see a strong, connected community or a place where every smile hides a struggle? Which feels true to you? The river winds through the village like a silver ribbon, its surface shifting gently under the morning sun. Wooden boats rock softly against the bank, tied with ropes frayed from years of use. Families begin their day by stepping into narrow boats, balancing baskets of vegetables, tools, or school bags. The water is their road, and the oar their steady, trusted vehicle. Children sit cross-legged at the boat's center, holding onto each other as their father rows toward the school across the river. Their laughter mixes with the rhythmic splash of the oar cutting through the current. On the banks, women kneel in shallow water, scrubbing clothes against smooth stones. Soap bubbles drift downstream while their voices rise in conversation, laughter echoing across the open space between the trees. Life here moves at the river's pace, unhurried, flowing steadily, changing only with the seasons. Some see it as peace that modern cities have already lost. Do you agree with them? Others say the calm hides constant risk. When the rains come heavy, the water swells, flooding homes, destroying crops, and washing away months of work in a single night. What's your opinion? A fisherman paddles past, his net coiled neatly beside him. He waves to the women on the bank before steering toward a quiet bend where the fish are known to gather in the morning. His catch will decide the day. Enough fish means extra money for rice or oil. Too few means another day of cutting portions small. Would you take that kind of gamble every day? Near the edge of the water, a group of boys dives in, their bodies slicing through the surface before reappearing with shouts of victory. They treat the river as both playground and teacher. An older villager watches from a wooden porch. He remembers years when the river was calmer, the fish more plentiful, and storms came less often. He wonders if the younger generation will see those days again. The river carries more than people and fish. It brings floating weeds, fallen branches, and sometimes the sharp smell of fuel from distant boats. It is a living thing, always changing its face. For some, this constant change is freedom, proof that life can adapt to whatever comes. For others, It's a reminder that nothing here is truly secure. Which side would you stand on? A mother and daughter row toward the market, their boat low in the water from the weight of fresh bananas. They smile at each passing boat, their voices carrying easily over the still water. At the small jetty, people help each other unload goods. Rice sacks are lifted onto waiting carts. Baskets of vegetables pass from hand to hand, and greetings are exchanged with the warmth of routine. Tourists watch from the shore, fascinated by the scene. Some take photos, calling it beautiful and authentic. But do they see the hard work and uncertainty behind every basket and sack? By afternoon, the river glitters in the strong light. The heat makes the air heavy, and most boats are tied up again while families rest indoors, waiting for cooler hours to return to the water. In the rainy season, rest is rare. The water rises quickly, brown and fast, carrying debris from upstream. Families work together to move belongings to higher ground before the current reaches their homes. Some call this preparation resilience, proof that river people know how to live with nature's moods. Others call it survival, a never-ending cycle of building and rebuilding. Which feels closer to the truth? As the day cools, the boats return. Nets heavy with fish are lifted onto the bank, and children carry buckets of water home for cooking. The river gives back what it took in the morning. At sunset, its surface turns gold, reflecting the sky's colors as birds skim the water's edge. Conversations drift from the banks, soft and unhurried as the first stars appear overhead. For the villagers, the river is not just scenery. It is their road, market, playground, and sometimes their enemy. If you lived here, would you feel free or trapped? Share your thoughts. Neon signs flicker above narrow streets as the evening crowd spills into small internet cafes. Inside, the air hums with the sound of typing, clicking mice, and the soft whir of ceiling fans. Young people lean over old computer screens, headphones wrapped around their necks. Some laugh at a video playing in another tab. Others type messages quickly, their eyes darting between the chat window and the slow-loading page. When the connection is good, the hours pass quickly. Friends abroad send photos of new homes, city lights, and streets filled with shops. Jokes and news bounce across the digital space like pebbles skipping water. But on other nights, the signal crawls. Pages freeze halfway, videos stop after a few seconds, and messages sit unsent in the corner of the screen. The room fills with quiet frustration. Some refresh again and again, refusing to give up. Others push back from their chairs, leaving the cafe early, saying there is no point in paying for minutes they cannot use. Outside, groups gather in tea shops where steaming cups are served on tin trays. News travels by word of mouth, carried in careful sentences between sips of sweet, milky tea. A friend pulls a small USB drive from his pocket, passing it under the table. Inside are articles, interviews, and a few songs, all collected earlier from a working connection. This sharing is quick, almost invisible. A nod, a pocketed drive, and the conversation moves on to the price of vegetables or the next festival. Would you call this smart or dangerous? Some say this is cleverness, proof that people here know how to adapt. They believe information always finds a way through, no matter how many doors are closed. Do you agree? Others argue it is a sign that voices are being pushed into corners made small and quiet when they should be loud. They say adaptation is no substitute for open space. In another cafe, a group of students watches an educational video on farming techniques. The sound is low, the image grainy, but they lean close, eager to copy notes into well-used notebooks. One girl writes quickly, determined to bring the new ideas back to her family's farm. She knows the video might not load again for weeks, maybe months. Would you work this hard for knowledge? At the far end of the street, a man repairs old phones under the glow of a single bulb. He cleans the dust from inside, hoping to keep them working for just a little longer. Phones and laptops are treated with care here, repaired again and again rather than replaced. A working device is more than a tool. It is a bridge to the wider world. Tourists often take this bridge for granted. They post photos instantly, stream music without pause, and send messages in seconds. Would they still feel connected if their bridge was cut halfway? In the market, someone sells second-hand hard drives filled with movies, songs, and news clips. Buyers scroll through the folders, picking what they want as if choosing fruit from a basket. For some, this is community, people keeping each other informed and entertained despite limits. For others, it is proof of a system that forces people to work in the shadows. As the night deepens, the cafe is empty. Screens go dark, chairs are pushed under tables, and the streets fill with the sound of voices heading home through the warm, close air. In small apartments above the shops, the glow of phone screens lights tired faces. Messages are typed slowly, each word weighed carefully before pressing send, as if the air itself might be listening. Some believe caution keeps you safe, that it is wiser to choose your words than to risk them. Others say silence allows the walls to grow higher. Which side would you take? By midnight, the streets are quiet again. Somewhere, a lone computer screen glows in the dark, a page loading line by line, carrying news from far away into the waiting eyes of the reader. If you lived here, would you call this cleverness, finding a way through every block, or would you see it as proof that voices are being pressed into smaller and smaller spaces? The city wakes to the sound of temple bells, deep and clear, rolling across rooftops and through narrow lanes. Their echoes mix with the soft chatter of early morning vendors setting out their goods. Golden rooftops catch the rising sun, glowing as if lit from within. The spires point toward the sky, framed by drifting clouds, each one a familiar landmark in the lives of those below. Inside temple grounds, incense curls upward in slow, delicate streams. The smell clings to the air, mixing with the faint sweetness of flowers arranged in neat rows at the base of the statues. Festival days bring an even brighter scene. Drums beat in steady rhythm, dancers move in sweeping arcs, and the streets fill with bright parasols that spin gently in the warm breeze. Families walk together in their finest clothes. Children wear crisp white shirts or patterned long yi, their hair neatly combed. Mothers carry small offerings. Fathers guide them carefully through the growing crowd. Candles line the edges of streets, flickering in the evening air. Their light reflects on smiling faces and the polished gold of statues, creating a soft glow that seems to erase the shadows. Some say this is the true soul of Myanmar, tradition alive and unbroken, connecting generations to ancestors who walked the same paths, lit the same candles, and spoke the same prayers. Do you agree? Others say tradition can become a chain. They argue that holding too tightly to the past can make it harder to adapt to a fast-changing world. Which side do you believe is right? In the temple courtyard, an old monk greets visitors with a warm smile. His robe is faded from years in the sun, but his steps are steady as he moves between groups of worshippers. Nearby, a group of young people takes photos for social media, posing in front of statues before quickly slipping their phones back into their bags out of respect for the place. A street outside the temple turns into a food market during festivals. Skewers of grilled meat sizzle over open flames, and pots of noodle soup bubble gently, sending steam into the cooling evening air. Vendors call out their dishes, urging passers-by to try a taste. Laughter spills from crowded tables where strangers sit side by side, sharing food and stories as the music carries on in the background. Some believe these gatherings strengthen community bonds, keeping neighborhoods close and supportive. Others see them as distractions, moments of joy that delay harder conversations about the challenges people face every day. What do you think? The night grows more alive as musicians gather near the temple gates. Flutes, drums, and traditional string instruments blend together, their melodies weaving through the air like another kind of prayer. Children run between the legs of adults, carrying small lanterns shaped like stars or animals. Their laughter rings out, a reminder that joy still finds space even when times are uncertain. For elders, these scenes are a comfort. They see in them the endurance of values, manners, and respect they fear might be lost in a more modern, rushing world. Do you share that fear? But younger voices sometimes question the cost. They ask why certain roles, rules, and expectations must remain simply because they have always been that way. Should the old always guide the new? In the quiet hours after the festival ends, streets are scattered with petals and candle wax. The gold of the temples fades into shadow, but the memory of the night lingers in every home. Some will remember it as proof that tradition keeps a people united. Others will say it shows how hard it is to step away from what has been done for generations. Which do you feel? Morning mist hangs low over the rice fields, blurring the horizon into soft shades of green and gray. Farmers walk slowly between the rows, their reflections rippling in the shallow water underfoot. The sun rises quickly, burning away the mist and pressing its heat onto bent backs. Wide hats shield faces from the glare, but sweat still drips down necks and soaks into shirts. Water pools around the ankles, warm from the sun. Each step is deliberate, each movement careful, as hands reach down to pull weeds before they can take root between the young rice shoots. For some, this work is a lifelong rhythm, planting, tending, harvesting, and starting again. They speak of it with pride, calling it the heartbeat of the countryside. Do you agree? Others say it is a cycle that traps families, offering no path out. They see the same fields every year, the same struggles with prices, and no easy way to change direction. In good years, the fields are generous, grains swell heavy and golden, bending the stalks low. The harvest fills baskets, storehouses, and bellies, leaving enough to sell and a little more to save. In bad years, the sky turns against them. Too much rain floods the fields, or too little leaves the earth cracked and dry. Debt grows quietly, creeping in like weeds after a storm. A farmer's wife kneels in the mud, planting seedlings one by one. She hums softly, her hands moving faster than her words, each plant another step toward feeding her family through the season. Children run along the narrow ridges between flooded plots, their feet splashing in the warm water. Some help by chasing birds away. Others carry water jugs to refill their parents' cups. At midday, the heat presses hard. Farmers rest under the shade of a tree, sharing rice wrapped in banana leaves. They talk about the price traders offered last season and whether it will rise. One man says the market always wins, paying less than the work deserves. Another argues that the land is worth the sacrifice because it gives food, if not wealth. Which would you agree with? A pair of oxen plod slowly through a nearby plot, pulling a wooden plow through the wet soil. The farmer behind them guides the blade with practiced skill, his legs splattered with mud. Machines are rare here, often too costly to buy or maintain. Many farmers still work the way their grandparents did, trusting the methods passed down through generations to keep the fields alive. Some see this as a beautiful link to tradition, proof that the old ways can endure. Others believe new tools could lighten the work and bring more security. Which view feels right to you? By late afternoon, the fields glow in the warm light, each stalk casting a thin shadow on the water. The air smells of wet earth, grass, and the faint sweetness of ripening grain. Families walk home together along dirt paths, baskets balanced on their heads. The day's labor is heavy on their shoulders, but so is the quiet satisfaction of seeing their fields stand strong. In the distance, smoke rises from cooking fires. Soon the villages will fill with the sound of pots clanging, children laughing, and the low murmur of neighbors talking across fences. Yet even in the comfort of home, thoughts turn to tomorrow. More planting, more tending, and the same questions about whether the season will be kind or cruel. For those born here, the choice to farm is rarely simple. Is it a deep love for the land that keeps them, or is it the lack of any other road forward? If you stood at the edge of these fields, watching the farmers work under the hot sun, which side would you take? Love for the land or life without escape? The morning air is cool as children walk along dusty paths, their polished shoes tapping against the ground. Each step brings them closer to the school gate, where teachers stand ready with warm smiles. Their uniforms are neat, though some shirts have been washed so many times the fabric is thin. Buttons are sewn back on with mismatched thread, proof of care taken in every home. At the gate, laughter mixes with greetings. Friends share snacks wrapped in paper, comparing homework before the bell rings. The schoolyard fills with the sound of running feet and excited voices. Classrooms are simple spaces with wooden desks carved with initials from years past. Chalkboards lean slightly against faded walls, their surfaces lined with ghost marks of lessons long erased. Some children lean forward eagerly as the teacher writes the first words of the day's lesson. Others glance toward the window, their eyes catching on the movement of trees outside. The first subject is mathematics, taught with a single piece of chalk that will be used for the entire week. Students copy each number carefully into thin notebooks, saving space on every page. Some say this determination is enough, that a student's hunger for learning can overcome any shortage. Do you agree with them? Or do you think tools are just as important as effort? Others believe opportunity must match determination. They argue that without proper books, computers, or even enough paper, dreams will remain fragile, no matter how hard a child tries. Which side are you on? In the back of the room, a girl raises her hand with confidence. Her answer is correct, and the teacher's smile is enough to make her sit straighter for the rest of the day. Next door, an English lesson is underway. Students repeat new words together, their voices rising and falling in rhythm, careful to match the teacher's pronunciation. Laughter follows when someone stumbles over a tricky sound. Break time arrives, and the courtyard becomes a playground. Children kick a ball made from plastic bags, jump rope under the shade of a tree, and share the last bites of morning snacks. Some use the break to study, sitting cross-legged in the shade with open books. A small group practices multiplication tables, quizzing each other with quick questions and bursts of friendly competition. In rural areas, some children arrive late, having walked for more than an hour from distant farms. Their shoes are dusty, but their smiles are wide as they join their classmates. Teachers often stay late after lessons, preparing materials from their own resources. Some bring chalk, paper, and markers bought with their modest salaries. Would you make the same sacrifice for your students? For many, the school is more than a place to learn. It is a safe space, a meeting point, and a bridge to possibilities beyond the village or city neighborhood. Yet challenges remain. When the rainy season floods the roads, attendance drops. Some children must stay home to help families in the fields or to care for younger siblings. At the end of the day, the sound of the final bell sends children spilling into the street. Their conversations are full of lessons learned, jokes shared, and plans for the walk home. Some say these daily efforts are proof that education is a powerful force here, capable of shaping futures even when resources are scarce. Do you believe that, or do you see limits in it? As the sun sets, schoolyards grow quiet again, desks sit empty, waiting for another day, while books rest neatly stacked on teachers' tables, holding the hopes of many small hands. If you could stand in these classrooms, seeing both the excitement and the shortages, would you call determination enough, or would you demand more opportunity to match it? When the sun dips below the rooftops, the streets cool and fill with the clink of cups and low chatter from tea shops. Steam rises from kettles carrying the sweet scent of condensed milk. Small wooden tables line the narrow rooms, each surrounded by stools worn smooth from years of use. Friends gather here after work, leaning in to talk over the gentle hum of voices. Cups are served on metal trays, their surfaces shining under bare bulbs. The tea is thick and sweet, poured from a height into glasses that warm the hands as much as the drink. Some conversations are light, a neighbor's new baby, the day's small victories, the unpredictable shifts in the weather. Laughter comes easily when the topic stays close to home. Other topics cause a subtle change. Voices drop, eyes glance toward the open doorway, and a quick sip of tea fills the gap until someone finds a safer subject. Some people say this carefulness is wisdom, a way of protecting yourself and others from trouble. Do you agree? Or do you think silence can sometimes give power to the wrong things? Others argue that caution keeps important truths hidden, letting problems grow quietly in the background. They believe speaking openly is worth the risk, even if it stirs conflict. Which side would you take? In one corner, an elderly man tells a story from his youth. He pauses often, glancing around before continuing, his words walking carefully between memory and the parts left unsaid. A group of young men huddle over a shared phone, showing each other short videos saved earlier. They talk quietly about the clips, passing the device around like a secret they must protect. In another corner, two middle-aged men lean over a newspaper, its edges worn soft from many hands. One taps the headline with his finger, his eyes darting toward the open doorway, before lowering his voice. The other listens closely, nodding just enough to show agreement, then folds the paper and slides it beneath the table as though it were something dangerous. Around them, conversations continue without pause, but a quiet understanding hangs in the air. Here, not every truth can be spoken freely. Would you keep your words guarded like this? Or would you risk saying what you believe out loud? In another corner, two middle-aged men lean over a newspaper, the pages worn and soft from many hands. One points to a headline, lowering his voice as if the paper itself might be listening. The other nods slowly, then folds the paper with care, slipping it beneath the table. Around them, conversations flow on, but a quiet understanding hangs in the air. Some things are spoken only to those you trust completely. Would you handle information the same way, or would you risk sharing it openly? The shop owner refills cups without interrupting, his ears tuned to the rhythm of conversation, but his mouth staying closed. Here, discretion is part of good service. Across the street, another tea shop plays the radio softly. The music blends with the clatter of cups, filling the air with a gentle background that smooths over moments of silence. Some say these places are the heartbeat of the neighborhood, where friendships are kept alive, trust is built, and news travels faster than on any screen. Do you agree with that view? Others think the very same closeness can create walls, keeping conversation safe but small, stopping people from speaking about things that matter beyond their own circle. Which one feels truer to you? A young woman sits with her sister, their hands wrapped around steaming mugs. They lean close, whispering between sips, their words shielded by the sound of chairs scraping and spoons stirring sugar. The air grows cooler as the night deepens. Lamps above the tables cast soft circles of light, making the shop feel like a small island apart from the dark street outside. Stories continue late into the night. Some are about the past, others about small events of the day, but all are shared with the same blend of warmth and caution. When the cups are empty, people linger a little longer, reluctant to leave the comfort of shared space. Outside, the night feels quieter after the murmur of so many voices. Some see this as proof of resilience, finding ways to stay connected even in times when words must be chosen carefully. Others see it as evidence of how much is left unsaid. If you sat here listening to the pauses as much as the words, would you call this carefulness wisdom, or would you call it fear? Share your thoughts. Someone will answer back. As the sun sets, the streets begin to glow with strings of lights hung between buildings. Paper lanterns sway gently in the evening breeze, their colors shifting with every movement of the warm air. Music spills from open doorways, the quick beat of drums, the smooth rise of flutes, and the deep hum of gongs. The sounds overlap, filling the narrow streets with celebration. Stalls appear where there were none in the morning. Skewers of meat hiss over charcoal, pots of curry bubble, and trays of fried snacks are stacked high, their scent pulling people closer. Dancers gather in the center of the street, dressed in bright costumes stitched with sequins that flash under the lights. Their movements are graceful, telling old stories with every turn and step. Crowds form quickly, laughter echoing between buildings as neighbors greet each other with smiles. Plates of food pass from hand to hand, often without asking who it belongs to. Sharing is part of the night. Some say these moments are the country's greatest strength, proof that joy survives even in hardship. Do you agree, or do you think it hides the struggles waiting for tomorrow morning? Others argue that while festivals lift spirits, they can also distract from problems that need solving. They believe celebration without change is a temporary escape. Which side feels closer to your view? Children run through the crowd with sparklers, their faces lit by tiny bursts of light. They weave between dancers, their excitement as bright as the fire in their hands. In one corner, a group of musicians sits cross-legged, playing traditional songs that draw older listeners closer. Some hum along, their memories drifting back to festivals from their own childhoods. Vendors shout their offers over the music, balancing plates of food on one arm while taking coins with the other. Steam from the grills wraps around them, mixing with the smell of sweet desserts. Tourists wander through, drawn by the noise and color. Cameras flash, capturing dancers mid-spin and plates piled high with steaming rice. Would you be among them, or would you join the dance instead? Near the heart of the crowd, factory workers in faded shirts dance beside shop owners in crisp cotton, their arms linked for a song everyone seems to know. For a moment, differences in money, status, and background fade into laughter and movement. Yet some in the crowd can't help but wonder if this unity is only as strong as the music that holds it together. When the drums stop, will everyone return to separate struggles, or will something remain? Does togetherness matter if it lasts only for the length of a song, or is even a brief moment of it worth holding on to? Near the heart of the crowd, factory workers in worn shirts dance beside shop owners dressed in crisp cotton. Strangers link arms for a song they all know, voices blending in a way that makes differences vanish for a moment. But some quietly wonder if this togetherness is only temporary, that when the music ends, everyone will return to separate struggles. Does unity matter if it lasts only for the length of a song? Or is even a brief moment of it worth celebrating? A man offers free cups of tea from a large pot, filling small glasses until his supply runs out. People thank him with smiles, his generosity becoming part of the night's memory. As the evening deepens, the dancing grows faster. Feet pound against the street in rhythm with the drums, and the crowd claps along, adding their own beat to the music. Some say these nights keep communities strong, reminding everyone that they are part of something bigger than themselves. Others believe they delay the conversations that might bring real change. Which do you believe? Lanterns sway overhead, their colors mirrored in puddles left by the afternoon rain. The reflections shimmer and break as people step through them, the light dancing on wet stone. Near the edge of the crowd, a grandmother holds her grandson on her hip. She points to the dancers, telling him the old story behind the performance. He listens with wide, curious eyes. For her, these traditions are not just entertainment. They are history, identity, and pride. But some younger voices wonder if holding on to every tradition leaves enough room for the future. When the music finally slows, the crowd claps and cheers. People linger, unwilling to let the night end, talking in small groups as the last plates of food are shared. Some will remember this as a night of pure joy, proof that the spirit of celebration can never be taken away. Others will see it as an escape that fades with the dawn. If you were here, standing under the lanterns with music in the air, would you call this strength, or would you call it denial? Your answer might surprise someone who thinks differently. The city lies still under a pale moon, its narrow streets bathed in silver light. Lamps sway gently in the breeze, their glow touching only the closest stones before fading into darkness. In the stillness between celebration and sleep, the streets carry the last traces of laughter mixed with the soft scrape of chairs being stacked inside tea shops. A faint breeze moves through, carrying the smell of grilled meat now gone cold, mingling with the sharper scent of rain on stone. A few night wanderers pass by, their shadows stretching long under the dim lamps, each lost in private thoughts. Somewhere, music drifts from an unseen room, a single melody played on a worn guitar, fragile yet steady, like a reminder that life keeps its rhythm even in quiet hours. Some would say these moments, fragile and in between, are where a place's true heart beats. Others might call them empty pauses between real events. If you were here, would you treasure this stillness as beauty, or see it as nothing more than the silence before the next day begins? Shadows stretch long over closed shop fronts, where signs creak quietly in the night air. A lone bicycle leans against a wall, its chain glinting faintly when the wind shifts. Dogs sleep curled in doorways, their chests rising and falling in slow rhythm. Occasionally, one stirs, lifts its head at a distant sound, then settles back into the warmth of its chosen corner. Down by the river, the water glimmers with broken reflections of the moon. Ripples move silently toward the far shore, carrying with them the faint scent of earth and the memory of the day's work. Inside small houses, the street's stillness is replaced by the gentle sounds of breathing. Families sleep close together under thin blankets, the air carrying the smell of rice, cooked hours earlier. Some dream of new jobs that will bring enough to repair the roof or send a child to university. Others imagine the freedom to speak their minds without fear of who might be listening. Some believe hope alone is enough to keep moving forward, that the belief in a better tomorrow can light the way through the darkest nights. Do you share that belief? Others argue that hope without action fades like a candle burning in the wind, offering light for a moment before disappearing into smoke. Which view feels truer to you? A night watchman walks slowly past the closed tea shops, his lantern swinging at his side, his footsteps echo in the silence, a steady rhythm marking the hours until dawn. In one home, a student sits awake at a small table, her notebook open beneath a dim bulb. She studies in the quiet, believing each page brings her closer to the life she wants. Her brother sleeps nearby, dreaming of building a small shop of his own, a place where neighbors can gather without worry, where laughter and business can share the same space. Across the street, an elderly woman sorts seeds by candlelight. She sets aside the smoothest, strongest ones for planting, her hands moving with the slow patience of someone who has repeated the same ritual for decades. For her, hope is not a distant idea. It is a small, tangible thing she can prepare for, one seed at a time. In another home, a man lies awake staring at the ceiling, his dreams bright but locked inside his mind, waiting for a better time that never seems to arrive. Which path do you think carries further? The quiet plan that grows slowly, or the unshaped dream that waits for its moment? Across the street, an elderly woman sorts through seeds by candlelight. She sets aside the best ones for planting, her hands moving with steady patience. For her, hope is something you can touch, something you prepare for quietly while the rest of the world sleeps. In another home, a man stares at the ceiling, his dreams bright in his mind, but left unspoken, waiting for a better time to act. Which approach do you believe will carry further, the quiet plan or the unshaped dream? The city clock tower chimes softly, its sound carrying far across the empty streets. Somewhere, an old man hears it and turns over, comforted by the familiar voice of the night. Some say the quiet hours are when true strength is built, away from the noise of the day. Others believe that silence without change is only waiting. What do you think? Clouds drift across the moon, dimming its light for a while. In the shadows, the streets seem even more still, as if the whole city is holding its breath. In the countryside, villages rest in the same quiet. The fields lie under a thin mist, and the only sound is the low, distant call of a night bird. Dreams here are not so different from those in the city. Better harvests, safer roads, and the chance for children to grow up without the weight of worry pressing on their shoulders. Some believe these shared dreams are enough to bind a people together, even through hardship. Others argue that shared dreams must be matched by shared action if they are ever to become real. As dawn approaches, a faint blue begins to touch the horizon. The stillness shifts, carrying the first signs of waking. A door opening, a kettle being set on the fire. By sunrise, the streets will be alive again, filled with voices, movement, and the push of another day forward. The night's hopes will walk beside each person into the hours ahead. If you were here, watching the city breathe in the quiet after midnight, would you say hope is enough to keep going? Or would you say it needs action to survive?